Let's make a perfect steak together today, guys. And the first step, I already accomplished it. I pulled my steak out of the fridge. This is important to bring it to the room temperature in advance, like maybe 30-40 minutes depending on your ambient temperature. I want to bring it to room temperature such that there is less temperature contrast between our target temperature and the internal temperature. And this will help us to cook a little bit more efficiently. Instead of bringing it, let's say, from 3 degrees Celsius up to 45 degrees Celsius, we will be bringing it from 20 degrees Celsius to 45 degrees Celsius. This is step number 1. My favorite cut is picanha. I talked about it in my What I Eat in a Day video. Pretty lean meat, but with a thick rib of fat. And this is such a treasure for us. And I will show you how to make it. Let's go through the equipment that we will need. Cast iron or stainless steel pan, spoon and fork or tongs. We also will need a knife. And now, what other things besides meat we will be using? Cell-destroying antibiotic, grass-fed butter, smelly grasses, salt, piperine, and saffron. Plus, we will also make that nice sauce that we made in What I Eat in a Day video, which consists of Tabasco, fermented pickles, red onion, and parsley. And we'll also have some greens, some peppers on the side. Now let's look at step number 1. We need to turn up the heat, preheat our pan. So while our pan is getting conditioned, if you're new to making steaks at home, then what I suggest you do, please take your steak and press on it. Press on it with your finger such that you feel how it feels when it's raw. Because it's very important to not overcook steak. If you overcook it, it will be very hard to eat. You need to control its tenderness as you are making it. So this is something that helps me a lot. I press on my steak while it's being while it's being cooked, and it allows me to tell if I am overheating it at this point. As long as it's as plump as it is in its raw state, when you press on it with fork or with the finger when it's already cooking, you're good. And so the first step that we will do, we will fry the fat. We'll render fat. So we'll put this picanha on the rib on very hot pan. I will let it sit like this for 2-3 minutes. So it's very handy to have a timer, or you can use your stove clock. This will allow us to render fat that we will use to cook our steak on, and at the same time it will cook the fat. Just makes it more delicious. See all this fat that's coming out? If the steak starts smoking too badly with unpleasant smell, then it is your sign to slightly drop the temperature. But don't cook steak on saute temperature type of thing. So you need to find this balance between it frying and at the same time not burning. So that's the art. I usually preheat my pan on high and then I lower the temperature when I put the steak on. The fat fried really beautifully. When perfectly fried, it will come off really easily. Now side number 1. I season my steaks lightly. I don't follow that rule of like a ton of salt, a ton of pepper. No, I don't go with that because I like taste of meat. I add just a little bit of each and I chill out in that moment because my sauces will be salty kind of and there will be so much flavor, so much beautiful flavor. I don't want to mask it. I want to only emphasize it. So we will make it very well rounded with just some black pepper. This I'm actually kind of even overcooking a little bit, over frying. So I will drop the temperature even a little bit more. I'm flipping it in 3 minutes. So I do 2.5-3 minutes on each side for this thickness of steak. This is the thing. Then also, if the ribs are raw, then you can also put them on the ribs. Now it is time to rest our steak. I'm setting timer for 10 minutes. The steak will just sit on the cold burner and we will proceed with the second stage of our steak making. Resting the steaks allows the juices to circulate inside of the steak. It allows the temperatures to distribute softly. So while it's resting, it's actually cooking because we expose the surfaces to high temperatures. So now I have thermal diffusion, heat diffusion going on. And for the next step, we will need our butter, herbs, and garlic. Let's prepare the garlic a little bit. I have these cloves of garlic. I'm going to just smash them with a knife. If you just dice the garlic, it will not give you any flavor. So you need to smash it because this lets the juices to come out. That's the logic. If you like garlicky flavor. If you don't, then stop, then skip the step. And while we're waiting for the steak to rest before we proceed with active cooking, I'm going to prepare that pickled Tabasco onion thing. You can add capers for extra points here as well, if you like that. I'm going to return it to the burner, and I'm going to start adding things. We need to put butter, garlic, and Italian herbs here. Let's perform the press test and see that the steak is very plump, but it's already very close to completion. So we should be very careful here. We're going to bring our butter to melting, heating it up. We'll heat it up and then we'll be using butter infused with garlic and herbs to splash it over meat to further bring it to completion. Because fats, they carry a lot of heat. And this heat will be very well transmitted through the fatty and watery matrix of meat, which will bring it to perfect temperature. Which actually, let's check what is our temperature now. We're quite close to our target temperature, but let's play with butter. So here, arm yourself with a thermometer and keep splashing very frequently. Let the butter heat up, splash, splash, splash. Heat up, splash, splash, splash. And then we'll allow our steak to rest again. When it achieves our target temperature, which I'm looking at around 140 Fahrenheit, we will need to let it rest again before we cut it. Ten more minutes for the steak to sit and come to its doneness. And while it's resting again, I'm going to cut vegetables, I'm going to prepare the salad, I'm going to dress the table. Let's cut into it. It's supreme. This is the cut. I think it's pretty good. The biggest secret of steak is resting it, because that turns it into a plump cushion infused with juices. Otherwise, if you do too harsh temperature regimes, not let it rest, if you overcook it, it will become a shoe sole, it will get stuck somewhere down your piping. It will be unpleasant. So, rest your steaks. Let's recap. So first, you pull it out of the fridge in advance, bring it to room temperature. Then you preheat the pan to some decent temperature. And if your steak has fat, first render fat. 2-3 minutes on fatty side. Then use that fat to put your steak on one side. 2 minutes depending on the thickness of your steak. For thinner steaks, of course, will be less time. One side, other side 2 minutes. On average, 2 minutes. Then, if you have thick ribs around the steak, then cook the ribs as well. Fry them a little bit. Seasonings are optional, but salt, black pepper are classics. You can skip them as well. The next step is when you have sealed the sides, sealed all the sides, and cooked them preliminarily, you let the steak rest for 10 minutes. Then, you return it to the pan. Bring it up to heat. Melt butter. Add garlic, Italian herbs, rosemary, whatever it is you like, maybe nothing, maybe just butter. And then you bring the steak to desired temperature, use the thermometer to control the internal temperature. And then let the steak rest again, because that will also allow you to get this juicy thing. I actually like to eat steak by hand. My favorite food. It's insane.